So this was literally one of those nightmare contractor stories that every homeowner fears, that they have nightmares about, and happened in my own house. So guys, welcome back. Wayne Veldsman from Full Sail Marketing, as always. So I'm here to tell you guys about the nightmare contractor story that me and my brother went through last year. We bought a new house to flip, to renovate, and it was so bad, right? If you've heard the stories before, contractors that don't show up on time, contractors that don't hit the like button on my videos, but contractors that charge you more than what they say that they're going to charge you, and then contractors that don't give you the final product, or they don't finish the full project. All of these expectations, right, that customers are looking for, that are reasonable, that should be met, these are the fears. And this story is going to tell you a lot about why these fears exist. Let's call it October 2018. I bought a house, a little 2-bedroom house. It has a walk-up attic. So the space was unfinished, and we decided when we bought this house that when we were in the flipping process, we were gonna convert this walk-up attic into another bedroom or a rec room, whatever you technically have to call it. First, we started fixing some stuff up. We started fixing the floorboards ourselves. We actually fixed the stairs and the railing and the banister and all of this stuff, and eventually got to the point where we're like, okay, we need to get some contractors in here to fix up the walls, lay some carpets down, but essentially we needed drywall put up. It was this really old, wooden, ugly, like paneling. What I did, like any customer, I went to Google, searched for drywall installation companies, right? And of course, one of the first things that popped up was Yelp or Home Advisor, I don't remember which one it was. And of course, they sent me a list. Here's some contractors to call. So I started calling them up and got one guy on the phone. He was more of a handyman, a single guy, just a single one-man crew. He came over. Of course, he ran on over, which was sort of a red flag in itself to me, but either way, he ran on over, gave me a bid that was, I think it was around $5,000. To put all the drywall up, do all the taping, the mudding, basically have it completely done. Everything that would be left to do is just paint. So we were gonna paint ourselves. Then finally I get another guy on the phone. Okay, it was funny enough, another one-man crew. Gentleman came over and he gave me like a super low bid. He was like,
yeah, I mean, if you wanna buy your own materials, I can do it for like $1,100.
I was like, oh, like that is another flag. That does not sound good. And then finally, after I don't know how many calls, I got a third person on the phone, and it was actually a secretary, an office manager, whatever it might be. And I was like, wow, this must be a pretty reputable company. I started asking her questions about like, what's the timeline look like? How expensive is this going to be? What, have you guys done this in the past? Funny enough, I told her I work with contractors, and I've heard these horror stories. Projects get started and they never get finished, right? That I told her, I've heard about these projects that start out as one price and end with a different one. Of course, she assured me,
that's not gonna happen. Nothing that you mentioned will happen. I totally understand.
So fast forward a little bit, she ends up, or somebody else on the crew ends up coming out. I wasn't at home that day. My brother dealt with them. Ends up coming out, checking out the whole job. They measured it, everything, comes out with a bid, and it was in the middle of the two other, right? What do you pop me, 5,000? Other guy said like 1,100, something like that. And then the other guy was in the middle, maybe $2,300, $2,400, something like that. So either way, that's who we decided to go with. Now I have found out since then, I asked some of my contractor buddies, hey, what would this cost? And I think most of them said even higher than the $5,000 mark. So if only I had known. But either way, here we go. So they said project should take 2 days maximum. It's not a huge space. We're gonna have 2-3 guys up in this attic space. They will hang all the drywall, tape, mud it, whatever. This is gonna be the cost. Timeline's 2 days. So project gets going. You know, day one I went and looked and there's a little small section that they had finished. And I was like, this is weird. Day two comes around. They start working. I was away and apparently during the middle of it, they come down, tell my brother, hey, there's something you need to come look at.
What the guy basically told me was that some of the wooden joists on the A-frame were sticking out a little bit, and in order to, you know, get past it and still do a good job, they just have to do some extra cutting.
Okay.
You know, it even then didn't seem like a really big deal.
Now they're halfway through the project at least. And so what are we gonna do? Call it quits with a half drywalled room? No. So we tell them, okay, understandable. Keep going. Yeah, okay, it's gonna be a little bit more money. Let's keep going, that's fine. End of day two rolls around, and when I say end of day two, I mean nighttime, and they're still not done. Next day comes around, and guess what? Don't even show up. Here is the first, now, this is the second red flag after day two. They'd spent so late, they don't even show up on the next day. And it kind of irked me because they said they're gonna be there, and they're like,
Well, we had another job come up. We weren't planning to be on your job for 3 days.
and so now we're into the weekend. And either way, so they come and they start doing some more work, and of course they still don't finish. They're at this point, at least they're putting up more mud and they're sanding, and this is now day three. I'm like, what's going on, guys? And they're like, yeah, it's just more work. We weren't expecting it. So maybe on their part, which these were two guys this whole time that are doing work. It wasn't actually the owner of the company or the secretary office manager who I had spoken to. It's just two other paid laborers. Either way, they don't finish. And so they say, you know what, we're super close. We apologize, we're still here. However, one of us needs to come back and finish it tomorrow. Funny enough, Logan and I were planning on podcasting that day. And so I always podcast in my house. I actually eventually started using that space to podcast. Fast forward, we are at 7 p.m. Finally, the guy finishes. He comes downstairs, 6 o'clock, something like that. It's already dark outside. He says, all right, I'm done. I need final payment. Before we give you the 50% deposit or the final 50% payment, you probably should check out the space. Now, we go up to the space, and me and my brother are literally walking around with our iPhones.
It's dark, so
We should have told him, hey, you know what? It's dark up there. Let us check it out tomorrow, and we'll mail you the check, or we'll bring it to your office.
my own naive fault, I assumed that he'd fixed up the stuff that, we pointed out the first time that we were all in agreement with.
And we get downstairs. This was absolutely hilarious. I'll never forget it. We start writing the check, and he's like, oh, it's actually more than that now. So now we had gotten not one price increase, but now this is the second price increase. Sits down on our couch, and he is texting the office manager. This is at 6, 7 o'clock at night. Texting the office manager, she's sending another invoice. Okay, and so we're sitting there all awkward. I kind of feel bad for the guy. It's not his business.
It wasn't until, days later when we were painting that we realized how bad stuff really was.
When we go up there and we check out this space, it's almost just a nightmare, an absolute horror story.
Crooked boards being hung up, gaps between boards. There were spots where the tape was showing through the plaster.
So at this point, contractors had showed up late. They had not showed up at all. The project had taken over twice as long as what they had told us in the beginning, and now it's close to twice as expensive. I don't know if you've ever done drywall if you're watching this video, or just look at the walls in your house. It's smooth, right? It's smooth. It looks almost like it's just one giant piece, but you're not supposed to be able to see the seams. You're not supposed to be able to see the tape. Man, I swear you can see every single piece. every piece of drywall, individual board. And so, as any normal, reasonable consumer would do, I called up the company and I said, hey, you know what, this is the case. It looks really, really bad. I know that the business owner wasn't out here, so I'd love to give him a chance to come out so we can make the situation right, because he probably doesn't even know. And in that time, actually, we had realized that they had drywalled over top of my wall outlets, the sockets for the wall. And she said, all right, I talked to the owner, Hunter. He's going to come out himself, come look at the space. He's gonna bring the tool to cut out your sockets with, and we'll go from there. And I said, okay, great. Per usual, of course, just like how his crew acted, Hunter did not show up. He did not show up the second time he said he was going to. Eventually, Hunter shows up in the space, and he's doing this, like, I don't know, I can just assume it's like a classic contractor walk, what I would do. And he's like feeling the wall, and he's feeling all the seams and the edges, and like he's got this look of disappointment on his face. And he's like, this is not what it's supposed to look like. I'm sorry, like we're gonna have to redo the entire thing. Needless to say, I will fast forward to the end of the story. It was the last time I ever heard from Hunter. That is kind of how the project ended. This was the nightmare of the story. The project was completed, but it was the worst completion of a project I hope to ever see in my entire life, right? He never showed back up. My wall outlets are still drywalled over. You can still see all the boards. We don't use the space very much. This is why the contractor industry it's either the #1 or the #2 most untrusted industry. It's because of stories like this. So guys, the reason why I tell you this story is sort of just to give you an understanding of what's happening else out there. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard these stories before, but it's still happening. There's still contractors like this. And so that's what's causing customers to act like they act, to not trust you, to be fearful because they've been screwed over in the past. And so if it's a customer watching this video right now, I want to tell you that contracting industry can be amazing. There are contractors that go above and beyond. One of our clients, Dan Sherwood of Sherwood Painting, on his website, he's a story of, it's literally called like the guarantee or the warranty that almost put me out of business, because he was painting the exterior of a house and the house had been treated with some the wood was peeling off, causing the paint to also peel off. So he had to keep repainting this thing. He said it took a couple of years. He kept repainting it. But that's the level of contractor he is. That he stands by his work and he says it's a satisfaction guarantee. Right? So there's amazing contractors out there. Fact of the matter is, you don't want to go with the cheap ones. Rather pay more now versus having to pay more later. Like, we're gonna probably have to redo this entire project. Reviews. Get as many reviews as you can and get pictures. Put pictures of your work. Better yet, put videos of your work up online so customers can see it. They can believe it. Build trust. Don't tell people how good you are. Show them. And last but not least, charge what you say you're gonna charge. Of course, you can run into snags. I totally understand that. But from what my understanding is, simply just budget more ahead of time. Guys, if you got any value out of this at all, if you at least enjoyed it, if you feel bad for me, hit the like button down below. I greatly appreciate it. That's how we're gonna keep getting our videos out there. More people are gonna keep seeing them. We're gonna keep being able to put out awesome content for you guys and help build the contractor industry to a point where there's no more of these crappy contractors out there. So until that time, I'm signing out.